That is fascinating. All right, Blazers fans, the playoffs are here.
Who's excited? We're getting you ready for the Blazers and Oklahoma City.
We need you to make the call, all right? Who's going to win this series? Will the Blazers sweep? Will it be close, or will the evil Thunder win? Head to kgw.com/vote to give us your prediction. Our Blazers playoffs bound special is coming up next.
Can you guys tell that Orlando is in the house?
He's here.
Orlando Sanchez,
already
all
ready.
his energy. We have our Blazers special coming up next, so stick around. And we'll see you back here tonight at 11. Have a great evening.
Good night.
A horrific playoff run. A franchise in mourning. But lowered expectations need not apply. The Blazers bust through the critics. 53 wins and counting. But in their way, a division rival and a franchise no one in the Northwest likes. It's the Thunder. It's the Blazers.
Every time we played them, over the years, it's been pretty much a war.
Basketball fans, we are playoff bound.
And now, from KGW, it's Blazers Playoff Bound.
Oh, and if you didn't see it last night, you missed out. The Blazers bench guys overcoming a 28-point deficit to beat Sacramento, getting win number 53 on the year, locking them into the third seed in the Western Conference. What is good, everyone? My name is Orlando Sanchez. We are alongside the one and only Art Edwards, and Chad Doing from Rip City Radio, NBC Sports Northwest is in the house. We will hear from John Canzano in a little bit, along with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Chad, I start with you. Where does the Thunder rank in terms of how much you cannot stand this team?
I can't stand them. I despise this team. They're the new Clippers or the new Rockets for the Blazer fans and everyone in Rip City. And with Russell Westbrook and the bitterness that we've seen really develop over the course of this year between he and Nurk, he and Dame, this is a team that we all want to see go down in flames in the playoffs. And I'll tell you what, it's one thing to get a playoff series win, but to do it against this team with Russ, it doesn't get any better than that.
Art, you agree with this, man? I know you do, but in terms of who the opponent was of preference, where did they land for you?
Well, I was hoping Utah because I thought that was a better matchup. I'm worried about them playing Oklahoma City. So I thought, it's going to be Utah. They'll be fine. Now I don't know.
Well, we're going to chop it up much more on this matchup, but let's talk a little bit about how they got here to this point. The Blazers more than defied the odds this season, predicted to finish 10th by a lot of the experts. Things started in the aftermath of owner Paul Allen's death, and they opened the season with somewhat of a circus. LeBron, he came to town. First game as a Laker. The Blazers won that one 128-119 and rode that into a 10-3 record to start the year. Portland hit the midway point 24-17. Then, as they always seem to do, they got hot, winning 14 of their next 20. They hit the All-Star break with 34 wins. And then March came around and brought a big scare. CJ McCollum went down in a game against the Spurs. That made Blazers fans nervous, but this was heartbreaking. Yusuf Nurkic going down for the rest of the season and possibly a bulk of next year with a broken leg. But Portland still went 7-2 without Nurk. What has this ride been like for you, Chad?
Well, it's been awesome. One thing we knew about this team coming back is that it was pretty much the same roster from the season before, all the key guys. So there was a lot of continuity there, which I think helped this team get off to that fast start at 10-3. Then we saw him go through a rough patch in November and December.
Right.
But like Terry Stotts always does, is he doesn't overreact to the highs or the lows. And then as the season progressed and we got into the new year, we saw this group really start to gel and come together. This year, they took care of business at home, 32-9. Yeah. They beat up on the weak Eastern Conference and took care of the games that they were supposed to win. And then we saw Nurk, Dame, and CJ, that core, really start to grow. And then Neil Olshey, to his credit, added Rodney Hood, added Enes Kanter with the development of Seth Curry coming off a year where he didn't play. I think we started to get a glimpse before the injuries of what this team possibly could be. But then even after the injuries, when I thought things might fall apart, they stayed together, they stayed true, and that's why you go out and get quality players on the bench. So when starters go down, you've got guys who can play meaningful minutes. They're able to finish the season strong and get to a point where it's like home court again and the 3 seed.
Right.
I mean, a lot of credit to go around for the organization on this one.
Art, I know you and I didn't see this coming. How impressed were you to see what the Blazers were able to do, winning 53 games this
Yeah,
year?
really impressed. I mean, when it got close and it was looking like they're going to maybe get to 50, I was excited about that. And I said, yep, they're going to make 50. When they were about 46, 47, yep, they're going to make 50. But 53, that was a little beyond what I expected, and how well they played. Beyond what I expected. I was thinking back when we had the injuries to when Wesley Matthews went down, and they weren't prepared for that. They just could not handle that, and I thought, you know what, we could be looking at another season like that one.
So most of the pundits got it wrong, but let's give credit where credit is due. My man Chad, you were the one
50, baby!
that called it. 50 wins. Let's flash back for a second.
Big win for the Blazers, and I do expect them to be right there challenging for 50 wins.
There it is,
Man.
Chad.
Yep.
It is official. You got it right back in October here on Sports Sunday.
I feel pretty good about that, by the way.
You also look good in black and white, by the way. So what made you so confident that this team could win 50 games?
Continuity, coming back with the same group of guys, understanding what Terry Stotts wants them to accomplish on the floor. But the number one reason is Dame. We saw it last year where he raised his level of play, almost won the All-Star, MVP when they played the game last year. He was on the All-Star ballot. He continues to get better, and so I wondered how much he could take that game up another couple of notches. He did that with his leadership, his direction, his work ethic. The guys follow his lead. And then with the development of Yusuf Nurkic, who had a true double-double going before the injury.
He was huge.
His defense, his improvement, and a lot of people don't understand that comes from all the work he puts in with the coaches at the practice facility. So when you take those improvements with Dame, with CJ, with Terry Stotts, and then you add in some guys like Seth Curry who can step in and be able to make shots, I was very confident in this group. I mean, they lost Shabazz Napier, Pat Connaughton, and you bring back everyone else and you tell me they're not going to, at least compete for 49 to 50 wins. I knew that Vegas was way off. Very happy with what this group does. Continue to prove doubters wrong and exceed expectations.
Vegas had them at 10th place
Absurd.
in the Western Conference, and here they are. The Blazers have the 3rd seed, which means that they will face off with their division rival, the Oklahoma City Thunder, in the first round. Things kick off Sunday just after high noon, 12:30 to be exact, at the Moda Center. They are Sundays. A big game on ABC. You guys jacked for this?
You better believe it.
Yeah, how about you, man?
Yeah, I love it. There's nothing like playoff atmosphere, but I think the other great part about this matchup, the NBA, the networks, they realize what's going on with Westbrook, Dame,
yes, they
and
do.
how these two teams don't like each other. It reminds me of like 80s style playoff basketball. To be on this type of showcase Sunday afternoon, national TV,
Everyone's
great
watching.
opportunity for everyone, for Dame and for Rip City to have everyone else focus on us for a moment, because we don't get that too often, and we have a lot to offer because Dame is a special player. It's going to be awesome.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, how this has turned into a rivalry in Rip City over the past couple of seasons. It's been filled with intensity, close games, and of course, my favorite, the pettiness. But the season series was as lopsided as it gets. In favor of OKC, round one went down to the wire, but the Blazers couldn't buy a bucket in the closing seconds. They lose 111 to 109. Game 2, Thunder won by 9. The Blazers turned the ball over 19 times, and Russell Westbrook had a triple-double. Game 3, also a 9-point Thunder win. Paul George went off. He dropped 47 points on him, and that's when the trash talk elevated. Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook exchanging words. Westbrook called Nurkic a clown in an interview. Nurk returned the favor in the form of a tweet, calling him Westbrook. And that set the stage for an intense round 4 at the Moda Center. It was chippy. There was pushing and shoving, technical fouls. Nurkic was ejected. It got heated. But in the end, it was an overtime loss in Rip City. So OKC takes the season. What stands out to you about those 4 games?
Very highly contested, very tough and hard-fought games. And I think it's clear when you see the difference between these two teams. Oklahoma City is reliant on Russell Westbrook and Paul George. Those two guys have been so tough throughout the course of the year, but it's clear. We know this after the Westbrook tweet, and then we saw the retaliation by Westbrook in the game, and Paul George dropping the elbow in Nurk's face. These two teams don't like each other. Even Paul George the other day said, look, after the Nurk injury, he goes, we don't really like each other that much, but you never want to see a guy go down. He had to acknowledge that, hey, we don't like them.
Disclaimer.
But we don't want to see anyone get hurt. I like that. It brings a lot. And I'll tell you what, you know how Dame is. Anytime you question him, you doubt him, or you challenge him, and he's got that chip on his shoulder, I think you're going to get the most out of him. But it's going to be very intense. That's really how I would describe the games. Yes. Intensity, hard fought, and very physical basketball.
Two elite point guards going head-to-head right now. What more could you ask for? Enough about you and I and what we think. Let's hear about Dame and CJ and how they feel about this matchup. Art Edwards, take it away, man.
Oh, that's right. You know, as soon as last night's game was over, the Blazers, well, they started thinking forward about the playoffs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. It is a heated rivalry, as we've been saying. Players Lillard, McCollum, they say expect a battle.
It's going to be a tough series, and I think we got to go out and just be aggressive going into it. Our mentality has to be the aggressor and going there with the attitude that we getting it done.
Every team is good, you know, at this point in the season, especially when you get towards the postseason. Every team poses different options, different problems. So, you know, being able to match that level of intensity, it's going to be a physical game. And obviously we got home court, so we want to take advantage of that and do whatever it takes to get these wins and get up out of this series.
All right, guys, there are very few of us who get to see every game in person. I ran into a couple of them that do have bragging rights in all this, the Blazers broadcasting team, and I had one question for Brooke Olzendam and Lamar Hurd. Simple. The Blazers advance out of the first round if they do what?
Dame and CJ will get their minutes, they'll get their points, but it's always about the third, fourth, and even sometimes the fifth guy to step up and help offensively. And these guys have really been working together so well, finding each other. The ball movement has been a thing of beauty as of late.
It's probably going to be Mo Harkless, Evan Turner, Al-Farouq Aminu, Rodney Hood, Seth Curry. Those types of guys, I think, will have to make shots consistently going into the playoffs a bit undermanned to get out of the first round.
You agree or disagree, Chad?
100% agree. We saw it last year, right? Pelicans threw multiple guys at Dame the whole time.
Blitzed him.
They blitzed him. He had to get rid of it. Nobody else could make shots. And I think the perfect example of what I'm looking for is what we saw in L.A. the other night with the game winner. Dame had the ball in his hands. They blitzed him. He made the next pass to CJ, who made the next pass to the corner to Mo, who stepped up and knocked down the shot. Those guys are going to get opportunities. The question is, will they knock them down? I will say this year going in, Mo Harkless, Evan Turner playing their best basketball of the year. Al-Farouq Aminu's playing with confidence. And Seth Curry also, big-time sharpshooter, playing his best basketball of the year. It gives me a little more hope that this year the other guys who have to make shots, because if they do, the defense is going to have to react, and that's going to open up lanes for Dame and CJ. It's critical.
Is there a player on this roster that you have faith in that can take on that role? If so, who would that be?
Well, I want it to be Mo Harkless. You know, he's healthy this year. He wasn't last year. And the way he played, against LA, that was as good a game as I've seen him play. I think it was his season high in scoring. He looked really good. He looked really confident. I think if he plays that way, he's the guy who steps up and makes a difference.
Roll call. They got to be able to knock down those shots. The Blazers put a ton of emphasis on getting home court advantage in the first round. Well, now they've got it. But does it really matter in this series? That's the topic of discussion in our 3-on-3 podcast with Jared Cowley and Nate Hansen. All right, guys, it didn't matter last year. Does home court advantage matter this year, Nate?
I think it does matter this year, and I think it's as simple as this team is better at home in pretty much every statistical category. They're a better offensive team, they're a better defensive team, they shoot better from the field, and they're shorthanded right now. So any advantage they can get, there's a reason they're 32-9 at home and 21-20 on the road.
That's pretty good.
It's because they're better at home, and they need any advantage they can against the Thunder team who has had their number.
Jared, do you agree or disagree?
I agree. Nate talked about how it will affect the Blazers this year, but if you look back at the past 10 seasons, in the 3-6 matchup, home court definitely matters. If you look at the record of 3 seeds in the past 10 seasons, they have 70 wins and 45 losses against the 6 seed. So home court matters. The 3 seed has won 16 of the past 20 series against the 6 seed. And only 7 of those series have gone to Game 7, and the home team is 5-1 in those Game 7. So it matters. It matters a lot.
Chad, how important do you think it was for the Blazers to secure home court advantage in the first round?
Oh, it's critical. The Blazers are obviously a great home team, 32-9 this year. But I think where it really helps, the role players you guys were just talking about, they traditionally will play better at home than they do on the road. And I think anytime you have a team that's shorthanded, no Nurkic, and you've got to have these other guys step up, having that home crowd, the emotion behind you helps, especially to start the season, because now after taking last night off all the key players. 4 full days of rest before the Sunday
Good
start.
point, yes.
Being in your own bed and getting that first game off, it's a big opportunity for Portland to get off the schneid after that 10-game losing streak in the playoffs at home in front of your home crowd. It's a big deal, especially in this series between the Thunder and the Blazers, where the home team usually has the edge.
Art, you feel the same way?
I do feel the same way, and I think they feel like they have something to prove. I mean, my hope is that they're not going to be tight, over this, losing, 10 playoff games in a row, getting swept last year. I hope they're not tight, but I think it is a big deal for them to have the home.
There was so much on the line for them to get back to this point and kind of hit the reset button and get a do-over. Now they have that opportunity.
Yeah, and I really look to Dame as the guy, the key guy in this whole moment. He's had all year to listen to the criticism. He took a lot of the blame and for the failures in last year's playoffs, and rightfully so. He's been preparing for this moment, and I know without question he is going to be ready to roll. And think about the rest. He was gassed going in last year, but now he's going to have the fresh legs. Look out, game 1. Damian Lillard is going to be ready to roll against Russ.
I can't wait to get your guys' predictions on how this season and this series unravels. That's coming up later in the show. Still ahead, success in this postseason doesn't necessarily mean wins and losses. At least that's what our John Canzano says. A special edition of Canzano's Court is coming up. Plus, Rip City, all about the love, how Jusuf Nurkic responded after fans put up their own money for that billboard. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back. Rip City showing the love for the big fella. The fan-funded billboard for Jusuf Nurkic went up in Northeast Portland yesterday. I know, Chad, you had to be loving this. This is your favorite player, man.
The best.
It's at the corner of Weidler and Victoria. The billboard says, "We love you, Nurkic," in both English and Bosnian. Nurkic even responded with a tweet simply saying, "Love." Nurk's injury was just one of the many ups and downs of the season for the Blazers. So how should Rip City define success this postseason? Our John Canzano has some ideas. It's time for Canzano's Court.
Well, you're forgiven if you saw the Blazers-Thunder's playoff matchup and said, the Blazers are toast. Remember, this is a franchise that's lost 10 straight playoff games, 12 out of the last 13. But I'm here tonight to say, not so fast. The postseason for this Blazers team is about something very different to me. Let's go back to opening night. Remember how the season started? Owner Paul Allen passed away before the season. Opening night began against the Lakers and LeBron at the Moda Center with that single long stem red rose and that Blazers cap on Paul Allen's seat. There were injuries along the way, including Mo Harkless, who was lost for a good portion of the season, wasn't quite himself. And Jusuf Nurkic, of course, who could forget that? Yes, this is a Blazers season that could have splintered. It could have fragmented. They could have been divided, and yet somehow they pulled together. Be proud of that and frame the postseason within that. This isn't about winning and beating the Thunder in a series. I don't think the Blazers can do it. I'm picking the Thunder in 6 games. For me, a victory in the postseason for the Blazers would be true competition, especially in games 1 and 2 that they get to host at Moda Center. They earned the home court advantage. And wouldn't it be nice, I think special, to see the Blazers put some pressure on the Thunder by winning game 1 and maybe even winning the first 2 games and sending the series back to Oklahoma City with a 2-0 lead. Remember, Russell Westbrook and the Thunder, they have not been out of the first round of the playoffs since Kevin Durant left. Let's put some pressure back on the Thunder. Yes, it's been a really nice ride in the regular season. Be proud of the Blazers, getting 53 wins and going 10-2 in their last 12 games without Nurk, with that hangover going on. Be proud of that. That was a big accomplishment. But this postseason now is about competition for the Blazers, and that's what I'll be watching for.
Oh, and that competition starts with those point guards having something to prove.
Man.
So the question, Chad, is how important is game 1 and securing a victory for those Blazers?
I think it's critical because, they've got this monkey on their back, 10 straight playoff losses. And if you have a younger team that loses game 1 at home after 4 days of rest, they could get back into that thought process of, oh no, here we go again.
Right.
So it's not everything. You don't have to win game 1. We've seen teams lose game 1 and bounce back and win a series. But I think for this group, with everything they've gone through over the last year, getting game 1 is going to be critical, confidence-wise, and being able to say, hey, we don't have Nurk, but we can do this against a very good opponent in Oklahoma City.
How about you, Art? What do you think about that?
I feel the same way about it. You can win if you don't win that first one, but they need to get off to a really good start, so they can feel good about themselves, so they can push away what happened last year, in the playoffs and really move forward. Let's wipe the slate clean. We got the 3 seed again. We're in a place where we want to be, but we just got to wipe all that stuff from last year out of our minds and move forward.
And I like what John said about how this team competes. I think it's going to be critical because we all have to remember that after last year's playoff sweep at the hands of the Pelicans, Paul Allen went into the locker room and he congratulated the group on the 49 wins in the division championship. But he said, you know what? The way this went down, this result getting swept in this fashion, it's unacceptable for me. So I think that Terry Stotts, Neil Olshey, the entire organization team, they know that they have to come out and play better, especially after another successful season with 53 wins. And I think how you compete, how you go down, win, lose, or draw, I think sometimes does matter.
How does it change expectations now?
Well, I think what you have to do, like at least for me, after the Nurk injury, you have to reset and realize that this is not the same, team that was, pre-Nurk injury. They got CJ back, which is great, and he's moving without problems. But they're not the same team defensively. He does a lot on the offense with Dame in the pick and roll. He does so many different things. So realize that if this team doesn't win the first round series, it's not the end of the world. It's hard to do it when you're going with backup guys. But Kanter is good enough to where this team can compete and put yourself in a position to go out there and win the series.
Last opportunity right now to head over to kgw.com/vote. Make your voices heard and vote on our poll because prediction time, it's coming up, baby.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you on the other side. And welcome back. All right, Chad, this is how you know we love you. Because we built you up for the last half hour.
This is not love.
Now we have to tear you down. It is what we do here. So roll the tape. Chad taking on fellow Rip City host Justin Myers. And Chad, did not go so well for you. What happened?
I didn't take the advice that I got to heart. I realized that when you give up 35 pounds in the battle of the big balls, the BioFreeze balls, you're in big trouble. And after I got hit the first time, it was like Rocky against Clubber Lang. It's like, first time around, I'm like, oh, I got some trouble here. Knockout punch.
I can't believe you came back for a third round.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, head over heels. So, my dad called me up after that and he goes, I don't think I'm going to be calling you up to help me out in the backyard this summer if I need to haul anything. He goes, I don't think you can handle it. Knockout punch.
I hope that BioFreeze is hooking you up after.
I know.
Do you have a tub of it at home?
No, that's what I was most frustrated about. A lot of people, when I went back to press row, they're like, are you concussed? And I said, when the Blazers took the lead after being down 28, I thought maybe I was, but no BioFreeze. When I needed it the most, I couldn't find the BioFreeze.
Oh, man. All right, we got 35 seconds left in the show. It is prediction time. Chad, we start with you. How does this series go down?
Blazers in 7. I've seen enough from CJ to know he's going to have that minutes restriction lifted, which will give them a much-needed boost on the offensive end. Hard-fought series, not easy, but I'll take the Blazers in 7.
Art Edwards, you're up.
Blazers in 6.
Oh, come on, Art.
I don't need to say any more than that.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going against the grain here with you two. I'm taking OKC. Don't be mad at me.
What?
OKC in 6 is how it's going down. Blazers season comes to an end. 53 wins on the year. Time to get it popping, man. Playoff time at the Moda Center.
Show me your Blazer.